Lagos does not introduce itself gently. It announces its presence with noise, movement, impatience, and hunger. It is a city that demands strength before it offers opportunity, and even then, it gives nothing without taking something in return. Every morning, before the sun fully understands that it is awake, Lagos is already alive. Buses cough black smoke into the air. Footsteps race against time. Dreams are folded neatly into bags and carried into the streets like fragile glass. Among those dreams were 3 young Nigerian women who arrived in the city at different times, for different reasons, but with the same quiet hope to live a good life. Amara came first. She arrived with certificates that still smelled like fresh ink and a belief that effort alone could open doors. She believed that patience was a virtue the city respected, and that if she followed the rules, Lagos would reward her honesty. She rented a small room, told herself it was temporary, and woke up every morning convinced she was only one opportunity away from stability. Zainab arrived next. She did not believe in patience. She believed in movement, in survival, in doing whatever was necessary to stay ahead of hunger. She understood the city faster than the others, not because she was wiser, but because she listened closely to its cruelty. She learned early that Lagos favored those who refused to wait. Ife arrived last. She arrived quietly, carrying notebooks filled with words that did not match the city around her. She believed in peace, in creativity, in a life that did not require constant struggle. She did not understand Lagos, but she hoped it would understand her. The 3 girls eventually found themselves sharing a small apartment in a noisy neighborhood where the walls were thin and privacy was a luxury. The room held 3 mattresses, a flickering bulb, and a fan that complained louder than it could. It was not the life they imagined, but it was a beginning. Days in Lagos blurred into routines. Early mornings meant long queues for buses, bodies pressed together, and the smell of sweat mixed with ambition. Each journey was a reminder that the city did not slow down for anyone. To hesitate was to be left behind. Amara spent her days moving from one office to another, submitting documents, smiling politely, and hearing promises that dissolved into silence. Each rejection was gentle on the surface and brutal underneath. With every unanswered call, her confidence thinned, though she tried to convince herself that persistence was enough. Zainab learned the rhythm of the streets. She sold clothes online, negotiated prices aggressively, and turned rejection into motivation. She did not have the luxury of disappointment. Bills waited for no one, and hunger did not respect dreams. Ife walked quietly from corners of cafes and shared spaces, typing stories while the city roared around her. She wrote about lives that felt softer than her own, about hope that arrived without pain. Sometimes she wondered if her dreams were unrealistic, but she continued anyway, because writing was the only place where she felt free. At night, when power disappeared and darkness filled the room, the city softened. Lagos at night revealed its exhaustion. The girls lay awake listening to distant sirens, generators, and prayers rising from nearby houses. In those moments, fear crept in, not loud, but persistent. Fear of failure. Fear of returning home with nothing. Fear of becoming invisible. The city tested them differently. Amara's test was patience. Each day demanded belief without evidence. She began to question whether doing everything right was enough in a place that rewarded shortcuts. Zainab's test was temptation. The city offered her easier money, faster comfort, and protection at a cost that could not be measured in currency. She learned that survival sometimes required sacrificing pieces of oneself, and that choice weighed heavily on her spirit. Ife's test was doubt. She watched others struggle and wondered if her quiet dreams had a place in a loud city. She questioned whether creativity could compete with urgency, and whether hope was practical. The pressure began to show. Smiles became tired. Silences grew longer. The room that once felt like shelter began to feel like evidence of stagnation. Then, slowly, something shifted. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just a small opening in the wall of resistance the city had built around them. Ife's writing found its way beyond her screen. Someone noticed. Someone believed. The validation was not large, but it was real, and it reminded them that effort could still echo. That moment did not solve everything. Money remained tight. Struggles remained constant. But hope returned, not as a fantasy, but as something earned. Amara began to see possibility again. Not immediate success, but growth. She adjusted her expectations, learned the language of the city, and stopped waiting for fairness. She began building instead of begging. Zainab confronted the cost of her choices. She realized that survival without dignity felt like slow disappearance. Strength, she learned, was not just endurance, it was the courage to stop when something was breaking her spirit. Together, the three girls stood at the edge of understanding. Lagos was not their enemy, but it was not their savior either. It was simply a place that demanded resilience. On a quiet evening, with the city lights flickering beneath them, they sat in silence and watched the traffic move like restless rivers. They did not celebrate. They did not make promises. They simply acknowledged one truth. They were still standing. The city had not defeated them. It had not fulfilled them either. But they remained. And sometimes, in a city like Lagos, remaining is the first victory.